Welcome to another episode of The Growth Compass. Shout out to our sponsor, Senders. If you want to do cold email deliverability correctly, you know how to find me. I know how to find them. And without them, I wouldn't be able to speak to wonderful people like Kerry Siggins. What's going on today?
Oh, it's a beautiful day here in Durango, Colorado, and I'm so glad to be on the show.
Yeah, well, there is so much to your story and so much that you put out into the world. So I'm excited just to head into it. So if you wanted to start with just a brief introduction, I think that would be great.
Yeah, great. Kerry Siggins, President and CEO of StoneAge. StoneAge manufactures high pressure water jetting tooling and equipment. So basically, high tech squirt guns on steroids that are used to clean like the dirtiest of applications. It's not a glamorous industry, but we keep the supply chain running. So we use ultra high pressure water to clean refineries, petrochem plants, food processing plants, power plants, anywhere you'd use ultra high pressure water to clean. I've been running the company for 18 years, a little over 18 years now. Yeah, I live in Colorado and have a 12-year-old son and just living my best life.
Awesome. And you also have a personal brand.
Yeah, I do. I do. I have a book. I wrote a book. It came out in 2023. I actually just sent book number 2 to my publisher yesterday. So
Oh my God,
woohoo, got it
congratulations.
done. I know. I was like, oh my God, just get it done. So yeah, my first book is called The Ownership Mindset, a handbook for transforming your life and leadership. And it's part memoir, part leadership book, part how to build a great team and company, and my journey to figuring out how to own it and run an employee owned company. And I do a ton of public speaking, and I love to write. And so I do a lot on the platform around employee ownership and building cultures and cultivating the own it mindset within oneself and within your team.
How long have you been off doing the personal brand space?
Since COVID. So I had a friend reach out to me and ask me to speak virtually to a group of women. I think it was a League of Women in Railway. And so another male dominated industry. And so I said yes. I spoke like off and on, but not really anything professionally, or I would say maybe say this so intentionally. I always spoke professionally, but just with intention to build a speaking business.
Okay.
And it went so well that I got several inquiries about coming and speaking to companies after that. And so I thought, well, maybe I have an interesting story that would be worth sharing. So I started to build that brand during COVID, and here I am 5 years later, and about to have book number 2 come out. Well, it'll probably be a
Awesome.
year before it's out, but yeah, it's been a very fascinating journey as I've explored this idea of running a company, but also amplifying what I think leaders should do, how I think leaders should be, and how we should share in wealth creation through employee ownership.
Yeah, I just want to. I mean, the reason I asked how long you've been doing it is because I'm involved with a cold coffee company, and we supply for a lot of office space amenities, and a lot of conversations that we have as far as partnering with businesses is around their culture and growth and things.
Yeah.
And COVID and remote work and office leases and things have made it a really different conversation than it was before. So it's interesting that it came out of COVID.
Yes.
This focus on the space.
Yeah.
I do want to return to that. So I'm just going to write it down. But if you could, what was your relationship to Stone Age? Did you come in when it was still a young company? Did you help found it? How did that
Yeah, no, I'm
work
not
for
a
you?
founder. I took over for the founders. The company was actually, let's say, so I came on when I was 28. So the company was 27 years old. So definitely a long history. But the 2 founders were engineers, and they had grown it to where they thought that they could take it. And so the management team wanted professional management to come in. And here I come to Durango, Colorado, mostly in for the reason of like fixing my broken life because I had made a mess of things, but I came home to heal and to figure out what I was going to do next after making some really poor decisions. And I met with the founders, and they decided to take this huge risk and hire me to take over their company. So that was in
Good for you.
2007. I started in January of 2007, and we've grown it from $8 million revenue a year company to almost $100 million in revenue, and expanded globally and disrupted our industry multiple times. And so it's been so much fun. And even though I didn't found the company, I absolutely feel like it's my company.
Well,
This
right.
ownership mindset. And I led us through the transition for a buyout the founders through employee ownership. And so it's been a wild 18 years. I never would have imagined that my life was going to be like this the day I moved to Durango.
Yeah, well, I mean that that label founder, we could have a whole
Yeah.
conversation yourself. I think there's an
Yes, we can.
interesting culture around it, but I mean, I would say from the perspective, those engineers did start a company, but then when you took over, you did essentially found a different company, like
The next phase of
an
it. Yeah.
extension, next phase of it. So,
It's
so that's really
interesting.
cool.
Yeah, I'll add to that real quick because I was named EY Entrepreneur of the Year. And when I was nominated, I
Somebody
thought,
claps. This is
thank
called. Oh my
you. Thank
god.
you. But I felt like an imposter. I was like, I'm not an entrepreneur. I didn't found the company. And it was my board, when I was talking to my board about it, they said, are you kidding? Absolutely, you're an entrepreneur. Like, look
That's
at what
right.
you've done. And so I always equated being an entrepreneur with founding companies. And now I know differently. Now I believe that entrepreneurs come in all shapes and sizes and forms and different kinds of ideas. But I had that little bit of that imposter syndrome. Like, I'm not really an entrepreneur because I didn't found the company.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good. Well, I'm glad you stayed on that because people need to know that. So one of my favorite questions to ask, because somehow we're going to navigate your experience with StoneAge and your experience with your personal brand. But one of my favorite questions to ask is, when you took over for StoneAge at the beginning, pick maybe two experiences, professional, personal, I guess, otherwise, that you feel like really significantly supported who you were at that time as somebody that was willing to take that on, to take that next step.
Yeah.
Two experiences that have prepared you to do that.
Yeah, great question. So I think first is that I'm just a risk taker, and that risk taking behavior can manifest itself in very positive ways and very negative ways. And I had made lots of decisions that it impacted me negatively. But one of the things that I did is I applied for the job even though I was underqualified for it, which is crazy considering where I was in my life after recovering from an overdose and really have hitting rock bottom, and especially being a woman where most women don't apply for jobs that they don't meet every qualification. But I felt something in my being, in my body, like this could be a really interesting role for me. This is what I'm looking for, even though I'd never run a company before or managed actually a person directly before, only through influence. So I think that the fact that even though I made poor choices in my life and I had issues with imposter syndrome and some self-doubt, I always still bet on myself, and I bet on myself when I applied for the position. And that thread has carried through my entire life from the time I was a little girl to today. And so I think that's a really key aspect because I was underqualified for the position. I shouldn't have been applying for it, but I still did it anyway. And so I always tell people bet on yourself. Like, you're the best bet you can make. And even if it feels big and scary, do it. Even if you get a no, you don't know what doors are going to open. And that was my mindset there. And then I think that the other big thread throughout my career, especially since coming onto StoneAge, and I didn't know this about myself because when you have a superpower, right, you don't really think of it as a superpower because you just innately do it. And every single person has a superpower. We all have our strengths. And I had a person come into my office one time, it was a couple years into running StoneAge, and I asked him questions and I got him to tell me like what was really going on. And he's like, ugh, I did not want to tell you this. I came in here and I was not going to tell you this, but you have this way of getting people to tell you things. And so you get to the heart of the matter of what is really going on. And so I think that this ability to ask really powerful questions is also something that has made me really successful and allowed me to connect deeply with my employees and to build credibility when I didn't deserve to have credibility, especially in those early days. I just knew how to ask good questions and really listen with presence and pull on threads like, hey, you said that word. What did you mean by that word? Let's go back to what you said a few minutes ago. I think that there's something more there. And so I could really pull the thread on what was really going on. So people think it's my ability to get them to tell me things, but it's not. It's just that I'm innately curious and I know how to ask questions. I'm not afraid to ask questions. And because I listen with care and presence, people want to tell me things. I build those connections and that trust. And I don't think that I would be where I am today. I know for a fact I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have that as one of my superpowers. And so once he told me that, I was like, that's interesting. I maybe should like work on that a little bit more, like build on that strength. And so those are two things that I think that have allowed me to get to where I am today.
So it's the aspect of risk taking, and
Yeah,
it's the
betting on
aspect of
yourself. I think betting on yourself. I think that's
betting
better,
on
right? Risk
yourself.
taking can have negative connotations. Betting on yourself and being ultra curious.
Good. Ultra curious, deep intentional
Yeah.
questions and listening with presence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So with these two, equipped, however aware, I guess, you were of these characteristics, when you take it over StoneAge, how much like exposure, I guess, did you have to like running a business, how to think about a business, these types of things?
Yeah. So not directly. I came to work for when I moved. I graduated from Colorado School of Mines, lived in Denver for about a year, moved to Austin, Texas, and I got a job as an operations coordinator. So kind of like a project manager type role within a really big manufacturing company, Eaton Corporation. Eaton's a multi-billion-dollar organization. I was in their electrical switchgear division, and our office ran the electrical engineers who would go out and do startups on big electrical medium voltage switchgear. So pretty technical, complicated stuff, dangerous stuff, right? High voltage, medium voltage electricity. And as a coordinator, you had to influence everybody in the office. I was talking to customers, I was talking to the engineers, I was talking to management, I was talking to the manufacturing plants, ordering equipment. And so I had my fingers in everything. And then my boss at the time also had a drug problem. He was addicted to Oxycontin before that was like a thing. And so he wouldn't show up to work a lot of the time. And so I had to keep the office running, but I had to do it through influence because I didn't have a manager's title. And so that position, I think, really laid the foundation for me to be able to come in and run StoneAge. I think that that's why I got the role, because even though I didn't have that direct management control, I should say, I got things done through influence and through working hard and through being able to pull all of the pieces together in a very complicated business. And so that absolutely laid the foundation for me. And it also showed me that you can be a leader without a title. And I think that was important, especially in those early days when I didn't have the credibility to come in and say, well, this is how I did it at my last company, so this is how we're going to do it at this company. I had
Right,
to
right.
to earn people's respect and trust, and do that through influence. And so I'm incredibly grateful for that opportunity at Eaton, because I think it really did help prepare me for what I was taking on at StoneAge.
Yeah. So when you did take it over, what were I mean, I'm this podcast, the ethos, like what I'm particularly interested in are growth tactics, defining customers, things like this. But objectively, when you took over, what were the major pain points in your
Yeah.
mind that you had to address immediately?
Yeah, so there was a big issue with the two founders are very amiable people. So the reason why they needed someone to come in is that they were just sweeping issues under the rug. And when you sweep issues under the rug, all you get is a lumpy rug. And so there were just problems that had to be solved. And none of them were existential, but there were just a lot of them because they hadn't been dealt with. And so I had to come in and prioritize what needed solved first. And there were serious issues in manufacturing. And so I focused on that. And then the crazy thing is that 2008, 2009, right, the financial crisis happened at the very beginning of me taking over the company. And I had never
Wow.
led through anything like that before. I'm 2 years into my job, and here we are, for the first time in the company's history, not going to grow. And so I talked to our customers, our dealers, our employees, and I came up with a plan that we're going to tighten our belts on everything, but we're going to, except with the exception of marketing, and we're going to really market and expand internationally, because it wasn't just a US focused crisis, but it was primarily in the US. So we're going to expand internationally, and we're going to invest in our product development. That is who we are fundamentally. We're distribution, we're marketing, and we are an innovation company. And
Interesting.
when we came out, so 2009 sucked. When we came out in
Yeah,
2010,
yeah.
we grew 35%, which
Wow.
was huge. And so we were flat. I think we were like 1% down in 2009 over 2008, 35% in 2010. And so I really learned that focus on the core. What do we do really, really well? And
And what
when
is
times are
that?
tough, well, that is engineering new products and distributing them. So we use contract manufacturers for the primary manufacturing of our product. We
Okay.
have a manufacturing facility here in Durango and one in Ohio, but it's not production. And so I don't actually consider us to be manufacturing. I consider us to be an engineering company, even though we manufacture products. But we have to be really good at distributing products, and we have to be really good at innovating new products. So I focused on those two core things, and it really helped us come out so much stronger because we had new products to launch. And here we had opened up, I don't know, like 15 new dealers globally. And that was a big transformation for us. And that absolutely has grounded me in all other crises going forward. And COVID, same thing. It's a little bit different of a playbook, but we're going to run the same playbook right now with the crisis that's going on with tariffs and how all of this is going to impact and the potential recession that we're about to face. We're going to run the same playbook. And so that was really helpful to go through that so early on. And it's actually what got me named as CEO. So I was general manager at the time, but because we got through the 2008 2009 financial crisis so
Yeah,
well, the
yeah, yeah.
board named me CEO at the end of 2009.
Wow. So then from that perspective, because a number of the conversations um, that we have on the podcast, like, okay, so you define your customers, you say, okay, what type of solution, what type of market, are we doing cold, are we doing inbound, how are we doing these things? Because there is interesting nuance to discuss in those things. I think what I am hearing is that instead of looking at what you guys are doing and say, okay, we need to do cold outbound this way, we need to market this way or whatever, you sat in the strategy focusing on marketing and said, we're going to focus on more clearly communicating who we are and allow the market to absorb this information and generate traffic that way. Was that the
Yeah,
correct way to
yeah. So I
understand
mean,
that?
yeah, so we're such a different type of company because we're in a very niche industry and we've been around for so long that and everybody knows us around the world for the most part, that our marketing, it's just a very different approach that we have taken. Like having like this inbound lead gen has not been the priority for us. It
Mm-hmm.
has been the right kind of partnerships through dealers at first. We sell direct now. We made a big business model shift in 2016, which was a massive risk, but paid off very well.
Betting on
Uh,
yourself. There you
Betting on
go.
ourselves. I bet on ourselves. Like we're taking control of this and not selling through distributors, but we really have most of the relationships that are out there that need to be had. Now there's new spaces that we can go into, but it's really about how do we launch new products to the customers we have. And
Hmm.
so that's what we focused on, and how do we get
Interesting.
those channels there. So at that time it was new distributors, and so that was our focus of going out, finding new distributors, and then helping them market our products to their customers. Now that we sell direct in North America and in Western Europe, and we're going to be selling direct in more markets too, lead generation is more important. And so we manage that a little bit differently now because we are going after new logos, or historically it's been, hey, we have so much opportunity in the space that we're in. We're going to just focus on selling new products to current customers. And that's a very different marketing strategy than it is to go out and get new logos. So that's shifting now as we're growing, and our product mix is changing. But back then it was, how do we sell more products, new products to current customers?
Would you say that that is a common approach or common focus by companies? Like, what characteristics of a company contribute to that? Even, I guess, being an option because you have to be around for a number of time to
Right.
have a customer base and
Yes.
in order to sell to them. So I guess age of the company's success. I don't know what else are these things, because from my perspective, you guys have been around for a long time. You have a good customer base. You sell a really good product. Like, what do you see other companies that are like this? Is it particular to your industry?
Yeah, no, I mean, it all just depends. Yes, absolutely. There are companies that focus on selling new products to current customers. There's a matrix, right? That you can put in. So the easiest sell is current products to current customers. And then the
Right,
next
right.
easiest sell is right, new products to current customers, and then current products to new customers, and then new customers, new products is the very hardest. If you're a startup, which I'm on the board of some startups, you're in that new product to new customer space. And that marketing strategy is very different than what StoneAge is, right? Where we are pretty much trying to sell, a version of our product line to current customers and to new customers. And so it depends on where you're at in your maturity as a company and the maturity of the product line. If you're trying to do something that's very disruptive, you might have to be in those different quadrants, and each of those quadrants requires a different strategy. So on the companies on the board of a startup, right, we're focusing on new products to new customers, and that is all about lead gen. And so that's a different marketing tactic. It's a different selling tactic than it is where we're at as a company. So it really is case by case, depending on the organization, your product, your customer base, and the maturity of the organization.
So unfortunately, skipping through a lot of really interesting stuff that I wish we had hours to get into. I'm curious, I guess, where we'd end that conversation, which is right now with where StoneAge is at. You said this, you guys exist in multiple places in this matrix at the moment. And so if you could just, I guess, give a summary statement around how you guys are thinking about growth and how you are executing on it
Yeah.
at the moment.
Yeah. So we are really transitioning from being a tool company to a technology company. And so we are always just building hardware, right? Nozzles that screw on the end of hoses. And then even when we got into more systems based products, it was all semi automated. Now we're building software enabled hardware, automated cleaning solutions. And it's a very different type of sell. And so we have to really transition our whole organization. We have to build out customer success because now we have software and we have to onboard customers with the software
Hmm.
product and make sure that they understand how to use it. But we're not a software as a service company. We sell hardware, and so there's all of the field support that's required to help customers be successful with a much more complicated product, which is solving all kinds of issues like water usage and not enough labor to do this work. But there's a transition that has to happen. And so we're really looking at growth as helping our customers transition to much more complicated technology that will do the work faster, easier, and better in the long run. But there's a learning curve. And we have to educate the asset owners. So our customers are contractors who use the equipment to clean the plant. But the plant now has to be educated on the fact that there's all of this different types of equipment out there and that there's benefits to them, especially with the data that the equipment produces. So we are really looking at how do we grow, or we're looking at our growth through the lens of putting this type of equipment in every single heavy industrial manufacturing facility so that work can be done faster, easier, and using less water and using less manpower. And so there's a exciting growth opportunities to be had, but it's going to take time because we're disrupting the old way of doing business. And that's going to be through our standard products. And then we do so many custom solutions because none of these applications are easy. This is very, very, very difficult work. That's why it's good for us. We don't have a ton of competition because this is hard to do.
Yeah.
And so, how do we build out our custom solutions division and custom engineering and going and building solutions around our products to clean very difficult, tough applications around the world? So it's really that transition from a traditional manual tool company into a tech company.
So does that involve? I mean, again, because I really enjoyed the Matrix idea that you put forward. Does that involve you simultaneously existing, I guess, on a per product basis, different places in that matrix?
Definitely. So it's new products to current customers, but the hard part of this is that plants aren't going to ever buy our products. Well, some of them might, especially custom solutions. But for the most part, they focus on their core, whatever they're manufacturing, and they outsource maintenance, which is the space that we live in. But because there's so much value in what our new equipment brings to them, we have to educate them. So it's like this pull through that has to happen. We want plants to know about us, and not because they're going to necessarily buy our equipment, but they're going to require contractors to have their equipment. And
Ah,
so it's this idea of how do you educate the
interesting.
plants and make sure that they really understand what's available and how to work with their contractors to be able to start to make this transition, because it's not, any transition always has growing pains that they have to go through. So that's where we're at. So our strategy isn't necessarily new products to new customers. It's teaching new customers about our products so they can require our current customers to buy them. So that just adds this other additional nuance that's there. But it's so powerful, and it's really what's going to drive the change, because the end customer, those plants that are being cleaned, they're ultimately the decision makers. And if they care about having safer, more efficient technology in their plants, contractors are going to adopt it faster. If they don't care, then people are going to be the same way, with a hose in their hand, doing it manually, which is incredibly dangerous and not very efficient. So there's a lot of education that has to happen. And you're not going to necessarily see the direct result from educating those plants immediately. There's going to be the flow through that has to happen. So it's an interesting problem to solve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Right?
I would just request that I think before we get off this call, you book another one for 2 hours so we can continue
Right.
exploring.
And I love strategy, but this is the interesting thing. Like, I mean, there are some businesses that the business model is straightforward and it's pretty clear, like how you're going to go to market. With StoneAge, there's nothing simple about anything that we do. This industry is not simple, and our customer base is not simple. And going through this disruptive time that StoneAge is really leading isn't simple. And I think that it's so much fun because it gets into the heart of what building a business is really about. And I love what I do because we get to solve these really complicated, complex problems every day. Like, this is not
Yeah.
easy. And it has benefits because it's not like there's a high barrier to entry into the industrial cleaning space, but we have to perform. We have to solve really tough problems. And that's hard to do. Not everybody can do it.
So I think more traditional approach, growth conversation would be around how you are building your thought leadership and marketing a book and all of those things. So if you could just quickly, just because like all of my thoughts are around like what you guys are doing and like the manufacturing relationships,
Yeah.
supplier relationships, like different customers,
Yeah.
definitions. And I want to get back to a conversation about culture as well. But I do just quickly, because it seems like, the reason that this is interesting is because we just spoke about, and we will at some point for a day's speak about your strategy of growing this really complex solution, and
Hmm.
at the same time you're growing this this
Personal
book, this kind of
brand.
personal brand that has a way more traditional approach to selling and monetizing and stuff. So it's just really, would be really interesting to hear your approach to that. So how are you structuring that side, that business, that's
Yeah.
company wide?
So it's interesting. People ask me, why are you doing this all the time? I am such an intensely driven person, and and I'm an ideator. I love ideas. And what I've learned is that, my team can only handle so many of my ideas, and we need to execute. And I can't, like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this. And so having my personal brand to grow has been incredibly beneficial for me and for the organization, because it's allowed me to put this intensity that I have to create into
Wow.
something besides just StoneAge. And a lot of people would say, well, why would you do that? But there's only so much an organization can handle. And I've had to realize that and learn that as I've matured as a CEO. And so it's been really good to have my personal brand to be able to pour this energy into, because I have a creative outlet versus just being implementing my ideas at StoneAge. So that is part of why I do what I do, is simply because I love to create. I love to create content. I love to talk about leadership. I'd love to talk about just, I mean, I can talk about anything. If you want to talk about anything business related, like, I can do it and I will engage and I love it. And so having this platform is an outlet for me to be able to experience, share, and hopefully impact people and make them think about leading in a different way. So, how I grow it, though, is much more traditional. I wrote a book because I love to write, and I'm a writer at heart. And so, I wanted to write a book first and foremost. The speaking was kind of a secondary thing, even though I do believe that my gift is being able to break down complex ideas into ways that people can understand and take action upon. But it really didn't start out that way. And so how I market myself is, I mean, word of mouth. I'm not, because I am a CEO first, it's not like I'm out there looking for hundreds of speaking gigs a year. I really want to find speaking. I like doing speaking engagements where I know I can make an impact, where it's really aligned. The organization or the conference is really aligned with where what I can add value to around culture creation and changing your mindset and building resilience, whether that's personal resilience or organizational resilience. And so that's really ideal for me. But mostly I just do it because I want to create, because I love to write and create content, and it's an outlet for me. And it's awesome that I've built credibility as a CEO from being in the trenches, doing it day in and day out, that I can make money doing it. And I think that's pretty freaking cool.
So do you have like, again, traditionally, like, I don't know, like a newsletter, drip campaigns, website,
I don't do any of
funnel,
that.
like these types of
All of
things?
it's word of mouth. If
That's
I was
beautiful.
if I was going to do a speaking consulting business full time, potentially I would do that, but I don't need to. I stay plenty busy with word of mouth and the marketing that I do, but it's all thought leadership, right? I'm not out there hustling. I'm out there sharing insights, sharing like the lessons that I've learned, the mistakes that I've made, in hopes that it just helps other people think, oh, like here, maybe I could do things differently and not make that same mistake. Or, ooh, I made that mistake too. And it makes me feel better that I'm not alone. And I think that that inspires people differently than the whole I'm out here trying to build this business into
Nice.
something that is my full-time gig. I do it
Yeah.
because I'm passionate about it. And I think that the word of mouth is it's exactly where I'm supposed to be right now in this phase of my life.
So I do, because you have such a cool perspective on it. I am curious. You have some very specific ideas and practices as far as culture goes within your own
Mm-hmm.
company. I don't know how you necessarily speak about it as a in regards to like other companies and things like that, but just from the perspective of workplace culture, being in person, being remote, being hybrid, how these different things are impacting the structure of cities, where people are living, how people are interacting with each other. All of these ideas, they go into workplace culture. And so I'm curious what your take is on that,
Yeah.
on culture, especially since
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah, definitely. So, being an employee owned company, we believe that people should act like owners, think and act like owners. But not everybody knows how to think and act like an owner. And in fact, in a lot of workplaces, it's actively discouraged to think and act like an owner. So we've built our entire culture around the own it mindset. So like you can see all my stuff here. And my book is called The Ownership Mindset.
Own
So
it.
it Yes, so it's all about owning it, and it's all about what that structure looks like. How can you be successful with an ownership mindset in a company? And so we created the Own It mindset, which is our values and set of success attributes built around self leadership, being a great teammate, and delivering on the StoneAge Assurance promise, which is our promise to our customers. And so it's very simple: self, team, broader impact, customer, industry. And so it speaks to everybody within the organization. And then we've built a system around the Own It mindset. So we have Own It trainings, which is our training on our soft skills, our power skills on how we do business. We have Own It chats, which is our performance review system, which are employee-led quarterly reviews on how people are, where they feel like they're performing well, where they need more support. We have Own It career development plans, so people understand how they're growing in their career, progressing to different skill sets or different levels within the organization. We have our Own It committee, which is our employee experience council. So we've created this whole system around owning it, and it works really well for us, because if you come to StoneAge, you will hear everybody talking about the Own It mindset. I mean, every day you hear about somebody being a great teammate or practicing self leadership or delivering on the StoneAge Assurance promise. And so we've created this ethos around what that means. And I think that's so important to systematize your culture. Get really clear on who you are, Don't have a laundry list of values that any company could have on their wall. Get really clear about what you're trying to do, what kind of culture you want, and then build a system around it. That's what we've done, and I think that that's why we've been able to be so successful in growing our culture as we've scaled as an organization.
So as far as it goes, supporting like young professionals when they enter your company, and then ideally retaining them or just supporting them as humans, it's always interesting to me to think about when let's use that language. So if there's a young professional, you're hiring them for like an entry level or at least a lower level position, and you're encouraging them to own, and they're developing really well as an individual, over the course of 12, 18 months, however long that growth cycle is, they gain skills, they acquire confidence, understanding of your market, and then potentially either move on to a more senior position in a different company, or they stay inside of their own company and are promoted. Not having a lot of experience in managing larger corporations, how do you see that happening? Is it a very common, typical thing to just hire 18 months later, you expect that person to move on, and then you hire again, and it's
No,
that
not
same
not
process?
here. Yeah. No, we try to retain our employees. We have very, very, very high retention rates, very low turnover rates. So obviously, if this isn't the right fit for people and people get skill sets that they can go on to a different company, then that's great. People need to live their lives and make the best decision for them. But our goal is to be able to develop better employees who think and act like owners, but also develop better humans, help people really invest in themselves. And so, yes, we try to promote from within. We don't have especially like a big, huge corporation where it's like every 18 months you're in a different position. That doesn't make sense for us. And all of our promotions are merit based, but we do want people to try different things to figure out, especially our younger employees, what those is the time in your life when you start to understand what your strengths are, so that you can ideally go to roles that build upon your strengths, not your weaknesses. And so it's a very individualized conversation between the manager and their employee on what that career development plan looks like, what type of projects do they want to take on to get new skills, and then the idea is that they're promoted when they've earned it. And I think that works really well for us. We have a high percentage of internal promotions. There's certain positions that we need outside skills for, and we're
Sure.
very clear on that. But yeah, we love promoting from within, and that doesn't just mean younger employees. That's everybody. Everybody here needs to be growing and learning new things, even if they want to stay in the same position that they're currently in.
Yeah, yeah. I just see, I guess, conceptually, someone, takes maybe, not age dependent, but I guess just experience in the field. If they want to transition to something customer facing, you can place them where they're receiving customer success. And then after a while, they want to graduate from that. So is it that you hire again for that type of, fielding initial responses, or is it that you promote from within, or is it case dependent?
It's just a case by case. So all positions are opened internally, and any internal employee can apply for it. But typically, what we're encouraging people to do is to have worked with their manager on their career development plan. So I'll give you a great example. We have a young woman here who is a total rock star. She got hired into order fulfillment, so picking, packing, shipping, and she wanted to try different things within the company. And so she thought, well, I could go take procurement, or I could go to customer service. And she applied for a procurement position along with several others of her peers. She didn't get the role because there was another person within the company internally who was more qualified for the position. But her manager said, let's talk about this, because you have a lot of potential here and you've come in and you've done a great job. And so let's get really clear on what you want. And she said, I actually really think I want to go into customer service. So her manager talked to the customer service manager and said, hey, can we come over and start to do some cross training? Because she's a high potential person, and she wants to be ready. She wasn't ready for the procurement position, but the next time that an opportunity opens, she wants to be ready for it. And so she did. So a couple hours a week, she would come over and sit with different people on the customer service team and start to learn about the job that they were doing. And when that position opened, she applied for it and she got it, and she is killing it. So the lesson of all of this is two things. One, you are in charge of your career, and you cannot just expect that things are going to happen. You have to earn it. And I think that is a little bit of a mindset shift for certain people, that they just think, well, if I put in 18 months, I should automatically get a promotion. No, like you gotta prove it. You gotta work hard. You got to earn it. And two, that you are in charge of your own career. And so to sit there for her to say, like, I want to try these different areas. I think this is what I'd be most interested in. And I'd love to start cross training. She has the ownership mindset. She wasn't just waiting to be tapped on the shoulder for something. She made it happen. She came over here couple of hours every week and sat here and learned it with the knowing that she didn't know when that position was going to open, but that when it did, she was going to be ready for it. And so she really exhibited that ownership mindset. And so she was a shoo-in for the position. And
Yeah.
she's absolutely killing it. So that's what I love to see. Now, not every promotion happens that way, but anybody who's listening, if you start out at an entry level position and you want to grow within an organization, you should follow that model. Talk to your manager about your career development plan. Ask to be cross trained in different departments. Learn about what you like and what you don't like, and be ready. So that way, when an opportunity arises, it's obvious that's the person I want. Not just because you can do the job from a skill set perspective, but because you're also a great teammate, because you're helpful, because you're taking on new projects and saying, hey, I raised my hand for that. That's how you skyrocket your career. That's how I got to be CEO at age 30. It's because I raised my hand, because I put in the work, because I said, I've never done that before, but I'm going to learn how to do it. And if you do that, you're going to grow in your career faster than you would by just waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder.
Okay, I can't thank you enough for letting us go a little bit over time.
Yeah.
There are two questions that I love to
Yes.
um, close with. And the first one is, what is one of the largest hurdles that you are experiencing at the moment, and could you frame it as an opportunity?
Oh, I frame everything as an
Oh,
opportunity. I'm the
perfect.
kind of person, that turns anything bad into something positive, which I
Good.
personally think is great, but I think sometimes annoys people.
Uh-huh.
They're like, this is bad. Like, how are you turning it into a growth opportunity? But I believe
Yeah.
that. I mean, I've overcome substance abuse issues and overdose. Like, I literally know how to turn anything into a growth opportunity. Yeah, I think that the tariffs that are coming out here right now, there's so much uncertainty of how it's all going to play out. And just how much customers can actually take on right now, because so much cost has been passed on with the COVID disruption of the supply chain. So not really understanding what the total impact is going to be because it's so unstable is definitely a challenge. But I believe that we are going to get through it, and we're going to lead through with a cool, calm, and collected manner. We're going to partner with our suppliers and partner with our customers, and we're going to make great business decisions that's going to make sure that StoneAge thrives, and that our customers thrive, and our suppliers thrive. So that's the mindset that I'm looking at right now, even though there's just so much uncertainty.
It's a more related question, and it can be small, it can be big. What inspires you?
My employees. I work with the best people on the planet. And every day I come home and I write in my journal about how grateful I am for somebody who did something amazing, whether it was to help another person, to take care of a customer who came up with a new idea. I do this because I love running an employee owned company. I love having owners as employees. Is it hard sometimes? Yeah. It's not easy. You have to be able to take feedback, and you have to do things differently with transparency and openness that not every CEO is comfortable with. But the magic that you can create when you have employees who truly own it, who are engaged at that level, it's amazing. And I love what I do every day.
Me too, because I get to have conversations like this, and this was
Yes.
amazing. If there's anybody out there that would like to get in touch or follow your journey, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you go to my website, kerrysiggins.com. And my book is there. My podcast, I have a podcast called Reflect Forward, Conversations on Leadership. That's there. All my contact information is there. I would love to connect. And I'm most active on LinkedIn. I'm on all social media, but LinkedIn is definitely the place where most of the goodness happens.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for the conversation. You have an awesome day, and everybody out there, own it. Just find something you
Own
own.
it. Own it. I love it, Blake. Thank you. Thank you for
Awesome.
hitting that point home.
That's right. You got it. We'll talk to you soon.